G'day guys, welcome back to SuperCoach with DR. For today's video, we're doing a Marsh Series review on the Adelaide Crows. So they've played their 2 games now. We don't know if we're going to see any of these players in action again before round 1. There might be a practice match organised somewhere, I'm not too sure. But we'll discuss those players who we think may be SuperCoach relevant, and maybe those players that may not be as relevant as we thought they would be this year. So we'll start off here with the defenders. First someone who got there is Rory Laird. So, easy selection, I think, Rory Laird. In his first game, had 13 possessions from 41% time on ground for a score of 49. And then the second game went nuts, 32 possessions, 132 Supercoach points from 87% time on ground. Look, he's as safe as houses. Lock him in for a top 6 defender average and a really easy pick, I think. Brodie Smith, well, he didn't play in Game 1, but somewhat came from the clouds, I suppose, in Game 2. 121 points from 78% time on ground, 34 possessions and a goal. Played a phenomenal game. Look, there's the potential for him and Millera to possibly swap scores, every few weeks, but he looked really good and has to come into consideration, I think, if he plays his new role permanently. He could be, good for a goal a game, kicks the ball well, as opposed to handballing the ball, but would love, 30k cheaper off his price. 30k off his price would be magnificent, but definitely need to look at him. But we've only got that one game as a sample. I would have loved to see him play the same role in Game 1, so at least we've got a couple of games up our sleeve to have a close look at. But with only the one game, certainly a risk, but could really, really pay off. And what is he, about 40k cheaper than Laird? So if you're desperate for cash, he may be someone to look at. Millera looked really disappointing in his second game. After his first game, we would have thought, well, look great, 103 points, 29 possessions from 73% time on ground. But unfortunately, I think Laird and Smith ate his share of the pie in the second game, 57 off 84% time on ground for only the 14 possessions. So I think he'll be a little bit too up and down for us, Millera. We'll have some terrific games, I think, but then we'll bob down more than bob up with, some pretty low scores. So wouldn't be too confident in selecting him at 402. You'd want to see a little bit more consistency, I think, from Millera. Oh, sorry. Who's the next one? Fisher Mackesy. Looked good, held his own, scoring 47 points from maybe 87% time on ground. Could be the short-term Duday replacement, but for his higher price, I'd probably want to see some better job security. I know that lots of people did have Duday in their initial sides, but we can see the red dot there looks injured at the moment. Will play early rounds, I think, of the season, but will that be in the Sandful? I think he might come back through the Sandful. When will he get his way back into the AFL side? I think when they are pretty confident that he's back to near full fitness. I don't think they'll take any risks for him. So could that be round 2, 3, 4, 5? I'm not too sure. But yeah, that's what worries me a little bit with Mackesy there. But wouldn't be surprised to see him play the first few weeks. But if Duday gets back, yeah, I'm not sure what happens there. Jordan Butts, in the first game, he actually had the third highest time on ground for the Crows at 80%, behind only Talia and Atkins. Looked okay for his 55 without setting the world on fire, but his times on ground suggested that the coaches wanted to have a really good look at him, but unfortunately didn't play in the second game. So I think we can pretty much cross him off our lists. But yeah, it did interest me to see that really high time on ground in Game 1, and for him not to be selected in Game 2, so it doesn't fill you with great confidence there. And I've just got Worrell there, just as 117,300 as a defensive forward. I've seen some players, or some super coaches with him in their sides. Probably is that swing with Hill and the Dawson types there, but I just put him in there just to say that he won't be getting a game early on and will be purely used as a loophole or swing man if that's what you're selecting him for. But don't select him expecting him to play in the early rounds. Right, so on the midfield, nothing much to see here, to be quite honest. You've got Rory Sloane, who's been a good scorer in the past, an 83 from 78% game time. As I said, I think he'll be a solid scorer, may present a little bit of value, but not a top 10 for mine. Matty Crouch, 88 from 80% game time. Usual Matty Crouch, 27 disposals, but just not damaging enough. I'm not looking at him this year. Same as Brad Crouch, 94, not bad from 79% game time. Again, 28 touches. But again, I just don't think that they'll be near the top crop of midfielders this year. So I'm just not really going to go near these sort of blokes. Bryce Gibbs, he may present a bit of value if he was down back eligible as a defender, but given the fact that he's a midfielder only, 87 wasn't bad, 81% game time, but better options in the midfield, obviously. Paddy Wilson, terrific little player, but just can't crack into the Crows midfield. Played the first game, had 14 possessions, 5 tackles, kicked a goal, only the 64% game time, so it was a good little performance in limited game time, but unfortunately he's got a high price tag, 190,000. Got a real uphill battle to play round one, and he obviously wasn't selected to play in the second game, so I'd love to see this bloke get an opportunity, but not really likely at this stage, I don't think. And the last one we got there is Ned Mchenry. So probably the most anticipated rookie pre-Marsh series. And look, it was one that I'd almost locked into my midfield. But first game, played less than a half, had 6 touches, kicked a point. What impressed me was his appetite for the contest. So he managed to make 5 tackles in that time. So I'd love to, say that he got some more game time the next week, but unfortunately didn't play. So I know he did have a little bit of I think it was a hamstring issue, nothing too major. I'm not sure if he was able to actually play last week and just didn't get selected. I'm not too sure, but yeah, I'm really worried on this selection now, and probably won't look to start him round one because I don't think he'll be available for us. If he is, yeah, I'll definitely have a look, but from what we've seen so far, there's not much we can go off with this pick, but we are pretty desperate at the moment for rookies, so maybe an option Mchenry, but at this stage, yeah, really not quite sure. So the rucks. Riley O'Brien, my alternative to Max Gorm. I've scrapped those plans now, and after seeing Maxi play, I'm just locking him in. He did everything that I wanted him to do, so no worries for me now. I'm going with the big 2, the set and forget like I was for most of the year. But yeah, I think there's been some alarm bells for the Riley O'Brien owners. Look, he looked really solid in game 1 against a Gauntless Melbourne, posting a very respectable 95 for only 69% time on ground, and that would have made all of his owners really, really happy. But unfortunately followed that up with a 60 off 87% time on ground, and I think was beaten by Zach Smith. Look, his score did seem low for his output. Look, he's definitely the number 1 ruck at Adelaide, we know that, but I think there are some more question marks about him now for mine, and look, after what English did on the weekend, we'll talk about him obviously in the Western Bulldogs video, he may have put his hand up, but yeah, certainly not against the O'Brien selection, but doesn't fill me with great confidence after what he did on the weekend anyway. So one of the forwards, Tex Walker, some rumours of him playing up in the wing this year, but he actually spent some time in the ruck, believe it or not. Don't go near him. Chase Jones, pretty disappointing, I think, as a forward. Had a couple of good moments, but 34 points doesn't cut it for his price. He did have a solid game in the first series, scoring a 74, but still too awkward, I think, for mine there. Tyson Stengel looked okay up forward and scored a 61 from 75% game time on ground in the first game, followed up with a 55 from 79% time on ground. Look, I think that he'll probably play round 1, to be quite honest, and look, at 202,000 though, yeah, I'd hope that there'd be better options. Again, we're not sure on the rookies at this stage, so if we're really, really desperate, he may need to come into our sides at some stage before the round 1 teams are announced, Stengel, but I'm hoping that we don't have to do that. McAdam, really, really disappointing for mine. He's someone that I did have on my watch list pre-Marsh series because I'd heard that he'd done pretty well in one of the intra-club games. But yeah, no good. Only a 23 from 61% game time in round 1. And I've basically crossed him off my list now. I didn't play last round. So yeah, just get rid of him if you're planning on starting with McAdam. Ben Davis, another interesting one. Did some nice things in both games. So from the first one, 55 from 79% time on ground with 2 goals. Then a 43 from 81% time on ground. Kicked the 1 goal there as well. So, look, he's another one that's really putting his hand up to play round 1. Do both him and Stengel play? I'm not too sure. But, yeah, look, Davis is cheaper. He's only 123. And again, if we're desperate, we may need to look at this young man, but I don't think he'll play a really SuperCoach friendly role, and I think, as you can see there, sort of 40s to 50s should be about his range, I'd say. And Benny Crocker. I actually like the look of Benny Crocker. He's someone that stood out for mine a little bit. Like, certainly didn't smash it out of the park in the first game with a score of 59, then, got a 56 the next game, so, look, hasn't got a huge ceiling there, but look, he's got a mature age body, managed to impact the scoreboard with a couple of goals in that first game, albeit from only the 9 possessions. But look, 152,000. his scoring history at Collingwood doesn't suggest that he's going to do anything special. But sometimes a change of clubs can really, really help players, maybe a different role. I think that he's shown enough to be selected in the round one side, Crocker. But again, we've got Stengel there, we've got Davis, Crocker, they all play in the forward line. We'll also talk about Billy Frampton, whether or not they'll go with another tool there to help out Rob. I'm not too sure about that, but yeah, how many of these players are actually going to get selected? That's what I'm a little bit worried about, and I'm really not too sure. But Billy Frampton in the first game, look, serviceable, playing mainly up forward and on occasions providing some ruck relief. He did actually have 20 hitouts for his 54 Supercoach points in the first game, but will they play him and Rob in the same team? We'll just have to wait and see, but it doesn't look good because he wasn't selected in the last game there. So that's my little take on the Adelaide side. Let me know what you think, guys, down there in the comments section. Anyone I've missed, anyone that you're looking at. I'm not looking at a heap of guys, to be honest. Mainly Laird, I think, in the back line piques my interest. As I said, I'm not going with O'Brien now. I'm sticking with Gawn. But look, we may need to look at a Stengel, Crocker, Davis type player in our forward lines, just with the lack of rookies that we've got at the moment. So we'll have to see the team sheets come round one. And our hands may be forced depending on what other options are available. So I'll also be putting out the rest of the league codes just to fill those in the next hour or so as well, guys. I'm also running a $50 cash lead with some spots still available, so I'll put the information up for that as well. Hope everything's going well, and I'll see you again for the next team review. Take it easy, guys. Bye.